A sealed envelope waits on the kitchen table at Heartland Ranch. Jack's name is on it, and everyone can feel the weight it carries. Before the truth is read, the house is quiet in a way that feels loud. One piece of paper is about to lift the past and set the future on fire, and no one is ready for what it says. Late light spills across the barn and the house as the family arrives one by one. Amy walks in first, holding herself steady, eyes drifting to Jack's empty chair by the window. She straightens a blanket on the backrest, as if he might come in from the yard and reach for it. Lou steps in behind her with a folder of notes that she does not need. She says they should all sit, that this should be simple, that it is better to handle business before the grief gets deeper. Her voice is firm, but her hands twist the cap on a pen again and again. Tim lingers in the doorway like a storm cloud. He scans the room, sees the envelope on the table, and looks away. Lisa stands near the counter with 2 mugs of tea, one cooling untouched for a person who will never drink it. The clock ticks, and each sound presses on the room. Georgie sits close to Amy, staring at the worn grain of the table. She reaches for Phoenix's bridle hanging on the chair and rubs the leather strap between her fingers. Katie drifts near Lou, trying to make herself small, while Jade speaks quietly to Caleb near the back door. No one wants to be the first to start, and no one wants to be the one to say they should wait. Outside, a wind moves the chimes and sends a soft ring through the air, a familiar note that makes Amy close her eyes. She remembers Jack's laugh when the horses stole apples from his pockets. She thinks of the way he could make a hard day feel simple with a few calm words. That memory steadies her, and she nods to Lisa. The lawyer arrives with careful steps, a neat suit, and eyes that understand loss. He introduces himself as Mr. Carter and sets his leather case on the table. He does not sit right away. He looks at the family first, then at the chair by the window, and only then does he reach for the case. The click of the clasp feels sharp. He pulls out a thin stack of papers and the envelope with Jack's handwriting across the front. Amy's breath catches at the sight of it. Lou leans forward. Tim folds his arms, jaw tight. Lisa lays a hand over Amy's and gives it a soft press that says the same thing Jack always said to her, that she is stronger than she knows. Mr. Carter clears his throat and thanks everyone for meeting. He explains that Jack gave clear instructions and that this reading should honor his wishes. He speaks in a level tone, simple and steady. The words drift like dust in a shaft of light and settle on the family in different ways. He says the will holds not only the division of things, but the reasons behind those choices, and he asks for patience as he reads. Amy nods. Lou nods but also straightens in her chair. Tim does not move. The horses stamp in the yard, and for a heartbeat the house seems to lean toward the table. Amy draws the envelope closer and places it in front of Mr. Carter. Her fingers linger on the edge, as if it might have warmth left from Jack's hand. The room gathers itself. No one speaks. This is the moment that turns a life before into a life after. Mr. Carter lifts the first page, breathes in, and begins to read Jack's final words to the people he loved most. The silence in the room feels alive as Mr. Carter begins. His voice is steady but gentle, carrying Jack's words into the heavy air. The first lines are simple, filled with Jack's love for Heartland and his gratitude for the life he built here. He speaks of family, of horses, of the land that carried them through storms and summers. Amy leans forward, eyes fixed on the lawyer's lips, almost hearing her grandfather's voice instead. Lou keeps tapping her pen against the table, her jaw tight, as if bracing for something sharp. Tim shifts in his seat, restless, arms crossed like a shield. Lisa stares at the window, her expression soft but unreadable. Jack's will begins with memories. He recalls building the ranch from dust and sweat, raising children under the wide Alberta sky, and watching his grandchildren grow into the people they are today. Every sentence feels like Jack has poured pieces of his heart onto the page. He calls Amy his light, the one who carries his spirit with the horses. He thanks Lou for her determination, for pushing forward when others might have stopped. He acknowledges Tim's strength, saying it was both a gift and a curse, but one that always kept the family moving. He praises Georgie's courage and Katie's kind spirit. Each name is spoken with care, and the weight of his love presses down, like sunlight through clouds. Then the shift comes. Mr. Carter clears his throat and explains that Jack gave very specific instructions about the future of Heartland Ranch. The words land slow, deliberate, like footsteps on old wood. Jack's voice, through ink and paper, states that Amy will inherit the majority of the ranch property and the authority to run it as she sees fit. The land, the barns, the horses, all placed under her stewardship. A ripple of tension slices the room. Lou stiffens, the pen frozen in her hand. Tim jerks upright, eyes flashing with disbelief. Georgie looks at Amy with wide eyes, while Katie bites her lip, uncertain. Amy, stunned, does not move, her fingers gripping the edge of the table as if it might steady her. Jack's reasoning follows. He writes that Amy has always carried his vision for Heartland in her blood, that she sees the world through the same lens he did, with patience, respect, and trust in the horses. He says the ranch belongs to the person who can love it without needing to own it. He believes Amy is that person. His words, meant as praise, echo like a storm in the ears of Tim and Lou. Lou finally lets out a breath, sharp and loud. Tim mutters under his breath, then louder, demanding to know how this could be fair. Mr. Carter does not stop. He continues reading as instructed. Lisa receives Jack's personal estate, the house, his books, his cherished keepsakes, and enough funds to live in comfort. Lou is left with trust funds set aside for Katie and an investment stake in a local business Jack supported. Tim is acknowledged but receives only a portion set aside for his retirement and future care. To Jack, it was a way to ensure peace. To Tim, it is an insult. The weight of Jack's choices begins to choke the air in the room. Mr. Carter sets the page down, folds his hands, and lets the silence return. The words still hang there, sharper than any blade. The family stares at one another across the table, and for the first time since Jack's passing, grief turns into something darker. The air in the room breaks like glass the moment the lawyer's voice fades. The stillness that once honored Jack's memory is gone, replaced by heat and anger that no one can contain. Lou slams her pen onto the table, the sharp crack echoing through the kitchen. Her voice trembles, not with sadness, but with disbelief. She says Jack always taught her about fairness, about standing strong as a family, and now she feels like he has turned his back on her. She insists she has worked her entire life to keep Heartland steady whenever storms came. She reminds everyone how she fought to protect the ranch when finances were low, how she balanced books late into the night while Amy was outside with the horses. To her, the decision feels like an erasure of all those sacrifices. Her words come fast, one over another, her breath heavy with betrayal. Tim rises so quickly his chair scrapes against the floor. His face is hard, his hands tight at his sides. He paces once, then turns on the lawyer, demanding to hear the words again, as if repetition will change them. His anger is not controlled like Lou's. It is raw, erupting in short bursts. He says Jack knew how much sweat he poured into this ranch, how many fences he fixed, how many long rides he took to keep the cattle safe. He argues that if Jack saw him as reckless in the past, that was years ago, and he worked hard to earn back respect. Tim's voice grows louder until even the horses outside shift uneasily in the barn. He pounds a fist on the table and declares that Jack favored Amy from the start, and now even in death he has proved it. Amy sits frozen, caught between their words and her own shock. Her chest feels tight, as though speaking might break her. She wants to tell them she never asked for this, that she does not see the ranch as a prize but as a responsibility too heavy to carry alone. She opens her mouth, but Lou cuts across, her accusing her of already knowing, of being in on Jack's secret. Amy shakes her head quickly, but the suspicion in Lou's eyes stings more than the accusation itself. Amy whispers that she only found out just now, the same as everyone, but her voice is drowned beneath the rising argument. Lisa, who has been silent, finally steps forward. Her voice is calm but firm as she says Jack made his choices because he believed in the future, not because he wanted to hurt the past. She reminds them that Jack was a man who thought deeply before acting. But her words, though steady, fall into ears too full of anger to hear. Tim throws up his hands, Lou shakes her head, and the lawyer lowers his gaze, letting the storm rage. Georgie pulls her chair closer to Katie, who looks frightened, her eyes wide as her mother and grandfather tear into the air with sharp voices. Even Jade, usually quick to snap back, keeps her distance, recognizing that this fight carries years of buried resentment. The ranch, usually a place of peace, feels like a battlefield. Old scars resurface, Lou's need to prove herself, Tim's hunger for recognition, Amy's quiet position as Jack's chosen one. Every word spoken cuts deeper than the last. And, above all, Jack's empty chair sits by the window, silent and steady. The one presence that might have ended the fury if only he were still there. Instead, the family splinters around it, the will now a wedge driven straight into the heart of Heartland. The table that once held family dinners now feels like a line drawn in the dirt. On one side sits Amy, stunned but silent, holding on to Jack's words as if they are a burden she never asked for. On the other side, Lou and Tim circle their anger around her like wolves around prey. The lawyer closes his folder, his work done, but no one even notices. The storm is now entirely theirs. Lou's voice cuts sharp through the kitchen. She accuses Amy of being blind to responsibility, of always hiding in the barn while she shouldered the weight of real work. Every syllable drips with years of frustration, all spilling out at once. She says Jack's choice proves nothing except favoritism, that his love for Amy clouded his judgment. She demands fairness, demands balance, as though shouting the words might bend the will into her favor. Her daughter Katie, sitting small beside her, tugs gently at her sleeve, whispering for her to stop. But Lou's anger burns too hot to notice. Tim cannot sit. He stalks the floor like a caged bull, his boots striking the wood with each step. He turns on Amy, his voice raw with bitterness. He lists every job he ever did on this land, every broken fence, every long ride, every injury suffered in the name of keeping Heartland alive. He spits out that Jack never forgave him for the past, and now Amy reaps what he sowed. His eyes flash, and for a heartbeat the room feels like it might shatter under his rage. Amy finally finds her voice. She speaks low, almost pleading, saying she never wanted this fight, that she never asked Jack for the ranch, that his choice was his alone. She begs them to see that this isn't about who won or lost, but about keeping Heartland alive. But her words, spoken soft, are drowned beneath Lou's sharp reply and Tim's heavy growl. No one listens. The family bond that Jack built with sweat and patience is unraveling thread by thread. Lisa stands her ground near the window, her voice a single steady current in the storm. She reminds them that Jack saw the ranch as more than property. It was legacy, memory, and love. She says, fighting over it dishonors him. Her words hang in the air for a moment, but they are swallowed quickly by Tim's curse and Lou's muttering. Georgie pushes back her chair suddenly, her voice trembling as she shouts that they are tearing the family apart, that Jack would hate to see this. Her words strike harder than expected. For a brief silence, the weight of truth settles, but then Tim shakes his head, muttering that maybe Jack already saw it coming. Katie begins to cry quietly, her small voice begging for them to stop. Amy pulls her close. rubbing her shoulder while Lou bites her lip, torn between anger and guilt. Even Caleb, leaning against the door frame, shakes his head at the sight of a family splitting down the center. Outside, the horses stamp nervously, their hooves drumming against the dirt as if echoing the unrest inside. The kitchen feels too small for the fury it now holds. Lou gathers her notes, her movements sharp, as if organizing papers could organize her heart. Tim snatches his hat from the chair, muttering that he won't stand for being cast aside. The lawyer quietly excuses himself, slipping out with his briefcase, leaving behind words that have sparked a fire no one can put out. Jack's empty chair watches over them all. The blanket Amy folded still rests on the back, untouched. It is the one still, quiet reminder of the man who believed they could hold together. Yet as Lou glares at Amy and Tim storms toward the door, Heartland feels like it is splitting into pieces that may never fit together again. The fight dies not because tempers cool, but because Mr. Carter's quiet voice cuts through the storm with words no one expected. He clears his throat and says, "There is one more instruction in Jack's will, a clause that was sealed separately and marked to be revealed only after the rest was read." The room halts. Even Tim stops pacing. Lou lowers the papers she was shuffling. Amy's hand tightens around Katie's shoulder. The chaos thins into silence once more, but this silence feels different. It hums with unease, with the sense that Jack is still speaking to them from beyond. Mr. Carter pulls out a smaller envelope, its paper aged and rough. Jack's handwriting sprawled across the front. It is addressed not to the family, but to Amy, alone. Her name, written in steady strokes, looks as though Jack had taken his time, pressing love into every letter. Carter explains that Jack left specific orders. This letter was never to be shared publicly, but he trusted Amy to read it and decide what to do with the truth inside. The air shifts again. Lou's eyes flash with suspicion, her voice sharp as she demands to know why Amy gets more secrets while the rest of them are left in the dark. Tim laughs bitterly, saying of course Jack would hide one last thing with his favorite. Amy, stunned, shakes her head. She didn't know. She swears she didn't know. Her hands tremble as she reaches for the envelope, but the weight of it feels heavier than the world itself. Georgie leans forward, her eyes wide with curiosity. Katie wipes her tears, whispering for Amy to open it. Lisa quietly places a hand on Amy's back, giving her a small nod. Tim mutters that whatever is in that letter better explain why Jack cut him short. Lou folds her arms tight, her anger cooled into suspicion. The room is no longer burning with fury, it is coiled, waiting. Amy studies the envelope, her heart pounding. She remembers how Jack's voice always held something back, how his eyes sometimes carried shadows when he spoke about the past. What if this is the shadow he never let out? She slides a finger under the flap, the sound of tearing paper filling the silence. She pulls out a folded sheet, the handwriting inside just as familiar as the name on the front. But before she can read, Mr. Carter clears his throat again and says softly that Jack asked the letter be read only when Amy feels ready. That choice, he says, is hers alone. The family erupts again, but differently this time. Lou protests, saying it's unfair, that secrets poison families. Tim growls that they've already been poisoned. Georgie whispers that maybe the letter holds the key to healing. Lisa defends Jack once more, saying he trusted Amy for a reason. Amy lowers the letter to her lap. Her throat is tight. She looks at the faces around her, hurt, angry, desperate. And she knows that opening this letter will either soothe them or destroy them. Her lips part as though she might read aloud, but no words come. The only sound is the clock ticking on the wall and the restless stamping of the horses outside. The letter trembles in her hands. Everyone leans forward, caught in the moment, desperate for Jack's final secret. And then, Amy's eyes widen as she skims the first few lines to herself. Whatever truth lies inside makes her freeze, her breath catching in her chest. She closes the letter quickly, holding it against her, refusing to speak. Tim curses under his breath. Lou's voice rises again, demanding to know what Jack wrote. Amy shakes her head, tears filling her eyes. She whispers that they are not ready. The room erupts with outrage, but Amy stays firm. Jack's secret will remain sealed in her heart, at least for now. And that silence, heavier than any fight, is the most divisive blow of all. Night falls heavy on Heartland. The fight leaves scars in the silence of the ranch house. Doors are shut harder than they need to be. Footsteps echo sharp on the floor, and the once warm kitchen feels colder than the Alberta wind outside. Amy lies awake in her room, the letter tucked under, her pillow as if it might vanish if she lets it go. Every time she closes her eyes, Jack's handwriting burns against her mind. His words, though she has only skimmed them, carry something that feels dangerous. Not to her alone, but to the family as a whole. She hears movement in the hall. Soft, careful. It is Lisa, stepping gently, pausing outside Amy's door. Amy whispers for her to come in, and Lisa does, carrying the same quiet strength she always had when Jack was alive. She sits beside Amy, the mattress dipping slightly, and waits. No pressure, no demand, just presence. Finally, Amy pulls the letter from under the pillow and holds it out with shaking hands. Her voice cracks as she says she doesn't know if she can carry this alone. Lisa takes the letter, not to read it, but to hold it with Amy. She says Jack chose her for a reason, that he believed in her judgment, even if the truth is heavy. Amy asks if she should tell the family. Lisa sighs and says sometimes the truth heals, but sometimes it destroys. The hardest part is knowing which one it will be. Meanwhile, in the bunkhouse, Tim paces like a storm that cannot find release. He mutters about betrayal, about being pushed aside once again. Caleb, leaning against the wall, tries to calm him, but Tim is unreachable. He says Jack's letter is nothing but more proof that he trusted Amy and no one else. He vows that if the letter holds secrets about Heartland, he has a right to know them. His voice is rough, his anger twisting into determination. Across the yard, Lou sits at her desk, papers scattered, her pen scratching furiously as if numbers on a page could give her control again. She whispers to herself that Amy cannot hold all the power, that Jack made a mistake, and she will not let the ranch slip through her fingers. Back in Amy's room, Lisa finally leaves her with one last piece of advice. She tells her to trust her instincts, not the noise of the family. When the door closes, Amy unfolds the letter again. She reads more this time, her lips moving silently. Her face pales, her eyes fill with tears. She presses the letter against her chest, her heartbeat racing. Whatever Jack revealed is not just about money or land. It is something deeper, something that could reshape how they see him and how they see each other. A horse cries out in the night, restless in the dark, and Amy looks out the window toward the barn. The wind stirs, carrying the smell of hay and the sound of chimes, the same ones that rang when the will was first read. She whispers into the dark that she will protect Jack's truth, even if it means standing alone. But as shadows stretch across the ranch, Amy cannot shake the fear that silence might break the family faster than words ever could. Morning rises over Heartland with a sky the color of ash. The ranch should feel alive with the sound of horses and the smell of hay, but instead, the air is thick with tension left behind from the night before. Tim avoids the main house altogether, saddling a horse in silence, his movements rough, every strap pulled tighter than needed. Lou shuts herself. In the office, eyes red from sleepless hours, her mind racing with plans to contest Jack's will. The family moves like shadows around each other, each step heavy with unspoken words. Amy walks through the yard with the letter tucked deep inside her jacket, close to her heart, as if guarding treasure and curse at once. Every glance she receives, from Lou or Tim, feels like an accusation. Georgie watches her from a distance, wanting to ask but afraid of the answer. Even Katie, usually full of questions, keeps silent, sensing the storm swirling among the adults. The ranch, once a place of unity, now feels like a fractured mirror, each piece sharp and dangerous. At breakfast, no one speaks. Forks scrape against, plates, cups clink, but the silence is louder than any argument. Finally, Tim throws down his napkin and says, he will not live under Amy's shadow. His voice is sharp, filled with wounded pride. Lou adds that the family cannot move forward with secrets locked away. Their words are less heated than the night before, but colder, sharper, more dangerous. The kind of anger that festers. Amy grips the letter under the table, her knuckles white. Lisa tries once more to calm them, her tone steady, reminding them that Jack wanted peace, not war. But Lou shakes her head, saying peace cannot grow from secrets. Tim stands, declaring that if Amy will not tell them, he will find out the truth himself. His footsteps echo as he leaves, the door slamming behind him. Lou follows soon after, her face hard, her arms crossed, determination stiffening every step. Amy is left with Georgie, Katie, and Lisa. The girls look at her with questions in their eyes, questions she cannot answer. She forces a small smile, one that hides more than it reveals, and whispers that Jack trusted her for a reason. But inside, she wonders if Jack's trust is a gift or a burden too heavy for her to carry. When she returns to her room, she unfolds the letter once more. The words swim before her eyes, the weight of Jack's secret pressing heavier than before. She whispers his name, her voice breaking, wishing he were there to explain. The chimes ring outside, the same gentle song that always followed Jack's footsteps. And for a moment, Amy feels him near. But the feeling passes, and she knows she is alone with this truth. She tucks the letter back under her pillow, her decision made. She will guard the secret, no matter the cost. Yet even as she makes this vow, she senses the ranch shifting, the family pulling apart, and a storm gathering just beyond the horizon. The camera would linger on Amy's face, her eyes filled with fear and resolve, before fading to the empty chair by the window. Jack's chair, still draped with the blanket she folded. Silent, waiting, and the narrator's voice closes in a whisper. What truth did Jack leave behind in that letter? And when it comes to light, will it bind Heartland together or finally break it apart?